So what do you know about this upcoming eclipse on April 8th?
I really appreciate bringing it up because the here again, um, people send me things, and of course, I've been planning for the eclipse since 2017.
Yes.
I got to see that one too. And again, we know that the shadows of these two eclipses make an X,
Yes.
and the X marks the spot is basically Southern Illinois, near the biggest city near there is Carbondale. And I've been there before, certainly. And I lived in Illinois for a while. But so at the end of the day, there's here again, massive amounts of misinformation. People are talking about, this current one going through 7 or 8 different Ninevehs. It's not true. It is not true. The path of totality, people can look it up. And this is where people get a little fast and loose with the facts in that. Look, I'm all for interesting things. I love interesting things,
Sure.
but I also want them to be accurate. And so I interviewed a gal here recently named Alexis Katz. She wrote a book where she documented all like 350 cities. Very, very precise. She didn't take any liberties. She's like, no, I want to give the facts. And she wrote a book about the upcoming eclipse. People can find it on our website. And my interview with her will be coming out very soon, where she looked at the cities from the 2017, all that whole totality, and the new one. And so she said, hey, look, I emailed her. I go, hey, people are saying that there's 7 or 8 Ninevehs. Can you respond? She said, Mono, it's not true. And she sends me a map. And you have a couple Ninevehs. You have it going through I just responded earlier. It's going through a place called Rapture Township, which is in southern Indiana. So at the end of the day, the facts are there. There's cities. I do find it interesting. Again, one of the most fascinating things I think of the whole thing is that the path of totality, again, is relatively narrow, starting in Mazatlan, Mexico, going all the way up, ending out of Canada. One of the last 3 cities that it's going through is Moscow, Russia, and Burnt Church. And you're like, okay, but so we can talk all day, Yvette, about all these wonderful, amazing things. And unfortunately, here's the phrase that I hear people say: "There's no coincidences with God."
Mm-hmm.
And Proverbs 16:33. The lot is in the lap of the Lord, and so it's every turn is from Him. So, in one sense, I 100% agree theologically that there's no coincidences with God. Absolutely, God doesn't operate that way. The difference being is that what God intends and what we think He intends are 99% of the time different. And so we look at this, and what if I was to say, you know what, Yvette, the Lord has been speaking to my heart, and X marks the spot, and what this showing me is revival's coming, revival in the land. Well, people would go, well, I don't think so. And then over here, this person's going to go, well, the Lord told me that it's judgment. And so here we are. At the end of the day, you asked very clearly, what can we know? What I'm saying is, what can we know 100%? Zero.
We don't.
We don't. We know that, as you mentioned in Scripture, most of the time when you see something like that, the seasons, we know, again, the stars, the Big Dipper, the Big Dipper, if you know how to measure it, will tell you whether it's the summer solstice equinox. I mean, it's a map. It's perfect. Tells you what time of the year it is for harvesting and planting, and it'll even tell you the exact time if you know how to do it, which is fun. So, but what about signs? Ot, the word ot in Hebrew. Well, usually what you see in Scripture is God would send a prophet in Old Testament times that would give confirmation about things like that. But today, what we're not seeing is you have different people that claim to be prophetic, that whatever. But what I saw too is I've seen contradictions between them. And so, so again, what do we believe? Well, we believe the Scripture, but what can we know about this? I hate to say it, and because I don't like saying that we don't know, but we don't know.
We don't know a whole lot.
Yeah, we know that God uses these things, but we don't know what He is intending by this.
Right.
Is it a sign of the rapture? We'll know after the fact, and then we won't even care about any of it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yep, because And if you ask people that get excited about it, which again, I'm excited about the astronomy, I'm excited about what it could, but if you ask them and you say, what does this mean? Can you give me 100% verification of what it means? Nobody can say that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So this is where I would say, well, what does that mean, Mondo? You know what it means? It means to be ready at all times.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that.
Now, how can I say that? Because Jesus said it in Mark 13:37. So even though I find it fascinating and provocative, at the end of the day, we have to be really careful that we don't lean or we don't get sucked in to some of these signs as God speaking in a certain way.
Yeah.
We need to stick with Scripture.
Yeah.
Because that is the final authority on all things for our spiritual life. But Mondo, Scripture doesn't tell us everything. No, it doesn't.
Right.
The rest we walk by faith.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because I mean, there's this fine line. We don't want to sensationalize things that are happening, in the world, because we do know, obviously, that there will be signs and there'll be seasons and there'll be things that God will show, up until the moment where the Lord takes us. So we know that, and it's biblical, obviously. But we do have to be very careful that we do not sensationalize some things things in general, really, that we may not know completely about because it's not very clear in the word, right?
Well, and I would say too that at the end of the day, as we get closer and closer, right? I mean, I'm ready for the rapture. If it happens on April 8th, man, no one's complaining, right? Even those Christians that don't believe in the rapture, they're not going to be complaining. So, but this is the key. We know, all of us that are watching, every single day that goes by is getting closer to the Lord's return.
Yes.
Okay, it's getting closer to the rapture. And we also know that every single day that goes by, things are heading in a trajectory. 2 Timothy 3:13, things will get worse and worse, and deceiving and being deceived. So every single day, the perilous times are here. It's going to get worse. So what that means is that as the church who is seeking to evangelize until the moment that we are taken up, we want to be doing that, and we need credibility.
Right.
If we come out and we start making these claims, these sensationalist claims about what this might mean or not mean, and we end up being wrong.
Yeah.
And the world looks at it and says, yeah, look, a bunch of idiot Christians making claims and nothing happened again. Why give the world, why risk? Again, if it's Scripture, we can say they can take that to the bank.
Sure.
But why risk with an eclipse or anything else going out on a limb and making a date? Or say, well, I never gave a date. Yeah, but you suggested a date. Yeah. And then the world doesn't care whether you suggested a date or made a date. They're still going to put you in a date setter, and they're going to dismiss you. So if we're going to err, can we err on this? My suggestion is we err on the side of caution, stick with the word, the written word only, which is always true, and not risk losing credibility, because as we get closer and closer, we're going to need that credibility to continue to evangelize, because we haven't gone out on that limb. Right. This is just, I would say this is just biblical wisdom.